Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be taking a look at the 25 best games available on the Nintendo Switch. Now, the Switch really has become one of the most successful consoles of all time, and it shows no signs of slowing down, and that really is for a good reason. They have just consistently put out great game after great game. And now that the Switch is 4 years old, going on 5, and with its library just growing rapidly, this really has become one of Nintendo's greatest consoles to ever exist, and they have just an absolutely outstanding library of games. And I think that this list today will kind of showcase that. Now, keep in mind that all of this is only my opinion, and yours may be completely different, but other than that, let's just go and jump right into it. And to start this list off, I have Mario plus Rabbids, which on paper seems like an odd combination. I never would have thought about combining these two franchises, especially in a strategy RPG similar to the XCOM franchise, but somehow it works perfectly here. Now, as you'd expect, being in the Rabbids universe, this is quite a wacky and very charming game, but what really surprised me with this game is in how smartly designed it is. With a lot of Mario style of games, it can be a little bit more simple, but with Mario plus Rabbids, it's actually got quite a bit of depth to it that requires you to strategize for each combat scenario. Honestly, this game is just a real treat, and it's quietly one of the better spin-offs in the Mario franchise. Now, here I'm actually going to be combining 3 AAA style RPGs, being The Witcher 3, Dark Souls, and Skyrim. And while all 3 of these games are very different from one another, one thing that kind of consistently blows fans away when it comes to the Nintendo Switch is being able to play games like this on a handheld device. It's almost kind of unbelievable to an extent, but here you have it. You can play these big AAA style of RPGs on a handheld device, all 3 of which may not look as good as what they do on maybe the Xbox or PlayStation, but they still do play well on the Switch, and it's pretty cool to have games like this available on the go. Growing up, there was only specific franchises that stuck with me throughout the years, and Spyro was definitely one of those franchises. I always really enjoyed these mascot 3D platformers, and you don't really see enough of these anymore, but even throughout all of these years, Spyro still remains one of the best within this genre. And here with Spyro Reignited, not only do you get one game, but you actually get the entire trilogy completely remade for modern visuals. And these games do fit perfectly on the Nintendo Switch. Hack and slash games always tend to be a lot of fun, but when it comes to Bayonetta, it's almost like it perfected the genre. Both Bayonetta 1 and 2 are fast and frantic, have great set pieces, and when it comes to their combat, they are perfection. I'm really not sure if there's an action game that has done it better than the Bayonetta franchise. Now, these games are a little sexualized, and that does throw some fans off, but if you can look beyond that, these really are among the best in the genre. Nintendo has made it a bit of a habit in recent years to port Wii U games over to the Switch, and thankfully they did that with Pikmin 3, as this is one of the most unique franchises not only for Nintendo, but really in the entire industry. Pikmin is like this puzzle time management game with these cute and adorable creatures that have unique powers that will help you escape hostile environments. Each Pikmin will have their own ability that will then help you navigate the many obstacles in your path. It's all a big puzzle while also managing time. You have to complete your task by the end of the day, and that is where the management really comes in, as you can manage several parties all at once, having them do their own individual things throughout that day. So if you are a speedrunner, you're going to have a lot of fun with that, but it is just such a unique overall experience. And here are a couple of turn-based JRPGs that is heavily inspired by the Final Fantasy franchise, being Bravely Default 2 and then Octopath Traveler. Now, I do prefer Bravely Default 2 for various reasons. I think it has a great cast of characters that really sets you on a grand adventure, but the thing that stands out when it comes to this game in specific is its combat. It is so incredibly in-depth, and when I say that, it's also extremely challenging. The way this game works is kind of like Final Fantasy IV in how you can change your jobs to fit your playstyle. And because of the way you can combine jobs in this game, there is a ton of different strategies, and you're really going to smartly need to do that because, again, this game is very challenging. Now, when it comes to Octopath Traveler, this one is more similar to Final Fantasy VI, especially when it comes to its art style. You have to take advantage of enemy weaknesses, but one of the selling points when it comes to this game, you actually have 8 different protagonists with their own unique stories. Now, that's kind of a good thing and a bad thing because I don't think that all of the stories are all that interesting, but I do think the combat in this game is good, and then also the art style is just absolutely stunning. Also, it goes without saying, if you like these games, you also need to play the Final Fantasy franchise, which many are available on the Nintendo Switch. And here I have the Spooktacular Luigi's Mansion 3. I think this game plays a little bit different than every other game on this list, and it's actually kind of like this Ghostbusters type of game where you play as the scaredy cat Mario brother being Luigi. In this adventure, you're going to explore a highly creative haunted hotel as you save all of Luigi's friends. Along the way, you're going to have to beat several types of ghosts, which includes some well-designed boss encounters, and you're going to have to solve various puzzles throughout this haunted adventure. This game is fun, it has plenty of different environments, and it's highly creative. And I also have to say this is actually one of the better-looking games graphically on the Nintendo Switch. In a time where most big JRPG franchises has went more to that action style of gameplay, Dragon Quest XI stuck to its roots. This very much feels like a 90s JRPG with modern graphics, and I absolutely love it for that fact. You set out on a grand adventure, you meet all kinds of lovable and charming characters, the art style is absolutely timeless, and the turn-based combat feels excellent. If you do miss those 90s style of JRPGs, then Dragon Quest XI is a game you need to play. Now, with that said, I also want to go ahead and recommend Dragon Quest Builders 2. This one is quite a bit different, and it's actually more similar to the Minecraft franchise, but it is a legitimate JRPG with an actual story. Builders 2 might be overlooked, but definitely worth a play. Nintendo's never really been known for shooters per se, but with Splatoon 2, that's kind of changed. Nintendo stuck to their guns here though, and instead of making this a bloody, gritty shooter, instead they did what they do best, and they were creative. Here in Splatoon 2, you actually play as these little squid-like people, and you paint the world to where you can actually then swim inside the paint. Now this allows for all kinds of strategies as you mix in platforming with shooting. This makes for great competitive multiplayer, as you can see who can paint most of the level, and it also actually has a surprisingly good single-player campaign as well. It even has a good cooperative horde-like mode as you take on the Salmonids together. This really is a full package game, and just a little bit different than what you're used to seeing when it comes to third-person shooters. What was once one of Nintendo's biggest rivals is actually now one of Nintendo's best games, being Crash Bandicoot. You can actually play the entire original Crash Bandicoot trilogy on the Nintendo Switch completely remade, and also Crash Bandicoot 4. Yes, Crash Bandicoot is finally back and in a big way. This is actually the perfect sequel to that original Crash Bandicoot trilogy, and it offers just so much variety. That's the thing that really stood out to me when it comes to Crash 4 though. I've always felt that these games are unique within a 3D platforming genre because not really anything else plays like them, but with Crash 4, it takes that original formula and it just absolutely runs with it. It's always bringing something new to the table with all of these different powers and abilities that you can harness within Crash 4, and the level design in this game is brilliant. Fire Emblem Three Houses is one of the more content-heavy games on this list. In this game, you do have a choice of playing one of 3 different houses, hence the name, each of which has their own unique stories. So there's a lot of replayability in this game, as you can put hundreds of hours into Fire Emblem Three Houses, but it's not just that, because it's also quality content. The strategy turn-based combat in this game is smartly designed, as you have to take advantage of all of the different terrains and outsmart your opponents. It all plays out kind of like this elaborate chess match, and it even has a social aspect to the game, as you can bond with the many characters within the universe. As a kid, one of my favorite franchises was the original Donkey Kong Country trilogy, developed by Rareware. The beautiful art style, the amazing music, the tight platforming with all the different animal buddies, the great level design, just everything about those games just blew me away when I was a kid. But as we all know, Rare is no longer with Nintendo, but they do have Retro Studios, which actually brought back the Donkey Kong Country franchise, and well, they succeeded in doing just that. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is one of the most brilliant platformers that I have played in recent years, thanks to its overall level design. The overall level design in this game is so masterfully done, as it gives you varied environments, you have different characters with unique abilities, and it also can be challenging, especially if you want to get all of the collectibles throughout the game. As a side note, I'd also highly recommend Yooka-Laylee in the Impossible Lair, which is actually a spiritual successor to Donkey Kong Country, made by former Rare employees. And here I have Xenoblade 1 and 2, which oftentimes the Xenoblade fanbase will kind of argue about which one is better, but I thought both of them deserve to be on this list. It really just depends on your preferences on which one you like more. These games, though, are often viewed as some of the all-time greats within their respected genres, and they're praised for things such as their expansive worlds, their beloved characters, and their unique and creative style of combat. And once you play these games, you can really see why. The universes in these games are just so interesting, and the stories are a lot of fun to follow as well. Now, I will say that you can play Xenoblade 1 or 2 in any which order you want because they don't directly follow the same stories. Nintendo fans are no strangers when it comes to Platinum Games and their expertise when it comes to hack and slash style of games, and well, they did it once again with Astral Chain. Platinum Games once again masterfully put together a hack and slash style game that is actually really unique this time with Astral Chain. In this game, you actually take control of two characters at once, the protagonist and then this alien-like creature. These creatures go by the name of Legions, which you do control with a chain, and you can swap them in and out, which all have their own unique abilities. This adds an extra little layer of strategy and even makes for some interesting puzzles as well. All of this might sound a little complicated on paper, but it's handled perfectly, it's fun, it's smart, and it's certainly unique to say the least. I've always personally preferred the top-down Zelda games, and even though we haven't gotten a brand new release in quite a while, we did at the very least get a remake here with Link's Awakening, and this is such a special entry in the franchise. It's just a little bit strange, and it's going to have you quickly mesmerized by the world and story. You want to know what's happening as there's just a bit of a mystery within Link's Awakening, and the further you get into it, the more strange it gets. But because of how eerie this game feels, whether that be with the music, the world, the story, it's just a game that sticks with you as you unravel its mysteries. And then there's also the well-done puzzles throughout the game. No, this game doesn't necessarily have the biggest world ever, but it's all very dense, and the puzzles are magnificently done. Now here I have a couple of Metroidvania games being Hollow Knight and then Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Both these are among the very best Metroidvania games to ever exist, though they do play quite a bit different than one another. On one side, you have Hollow Knight, which really excels with its combat. This is a dark, grim, and gloomy world that kind of plays out like a Metroidvania style of Dark Souls game. Hollow Knight is a challenging game. It does have that risk-reward factor to it, and it also has masterfully crafted boss encounters. But then you also have Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which focuses a little bit more on its platforming. And this is something that I've always said, but I think that the platforming is so good within Ori that it can actually stand toe-to-toe with some of the better platformers across the industry. That's how good it does, especially when it comes to its boss sequences, which really test your platforming skills. With Will of the Wisp, though, this also does have great combat, it's got an emotionally engaging story, and unlike Hollow Knight, this has a colorful and beautiful world. I've never really been a big fan of roguelike games where if you die, you have to start all the way back from the beginning, but in recent years, there has been a few standout hits, but none better than Hades. After playing this game, it was easy to see why this game has won so many Game of the Year awards. It somehow intertwined a roguelike experience with just amazing storytelling. This is something that really threw me off, but it almost seemed like when you died in this game, you was almost rewarded because you got to talk with all of the characters in this universe one more time. And then when you combine that with its strategic combat, where you kind of choose your path as you try to escape hell, it's intelligent, it's strategic, and it truly feels very rewarding. And Hades is a game that just has endless depth to it. You can easily put 20, 30, 40, 50 plus hours into this game trying to escape hell, because in order to complete its full story, you're gonna have to reach the top at least 10 times, and that's no easy task. Since the launch of Animal Crossing New Horizons, this game has kind of taken the gaming world by storm. I don't think anybody saw this amount of success this fast, but Animal Crossing New Horizons has already eclipsed 30 million plus units sold worldwide, which is just absolutely insane, but there's a good reason for that. This is just a very relaxing and zen experience as you kind of create your own paradise. This is a non-linear social simulator that is actually quite addicting as well, as you'll find yourself signing in on a daily basis to further advance your community and do all sorts of different tasks, whether that be creative and build new things, hunt down bugs, or even go fishing. There's plenty to do in Animal Crossing New Horizons, where you can create your own little paradise. In recent years, Monster Hunter has risen in popularity thanks to the introduction to Monster Hunter World. However, unfortunately, Nintendo was kind of missing out on the Monster Hunter experience until Monster Hunter Rise was specifically developed with the Nintendo Switch in mind. And Capcom did a great job at making this game feel perfect on the Nintendo Switch, whether you want to play in handheld mode or on your TV. Not only is this game a full-fledged Monster Hunter game, but it has a great art style that really makes it stand out on the Switch. Of course, as usual, you have all kinds of interesting monsters to hunt down with their own unique behaviors that really makes them feel lifelike. But also with the traversal in this game, you have more verticality than ever before. You also have a Palamute, which is this dog-like creature that can get you into action much quicker than ever before. And then to top it off, you have this new wire bug that can be used in both traversal as well in combat by zipping around. It just adds an extra little layer to the already excellent formula in the Monster Hunter franchise. As an added bonus, Monster Hunter Rise also makes for a great cooperative experience. It's no secret that one of my favorite franchises of all time is Pokemon, and thankfully the Nintendo Switch has access to several good Pokemon games. Of course, you have the core experience being Pokemon Sword and Shield, which was actually a little bit more controversial there at launch, but this is still a good core experience in a Pokemon franchise thanks to the many additions that it did bring. This game for the first time does include a wild area, which is where you can actually see Pokemon roaming around for the first time in the core franchise. This is something that fans have dreamed about for years, and it just gives you access to some very powerful Pokemon like right out of the gate. You can also catch special Pokemon here with unique abilities in different styles of raids. And for that matter, one thing that I think Sword and Shield does really well is that it streamlined the competitive side of Pokemon just a little bit more. It offsets some of that grinding that we've seen in the past for competitive multiplayer. Now, with that said, I do want to recommend some other Pokemon games for the Switch, including Pokemon Let's Go and then new Pokemon Snap, which is definitely a really interesting one. It's kind of hard to explain why this game is so good. I mean, you just take pictures of Pokemon, but it is oddly rewarding, especially trying to get the highest possible score for each individual photo. Now, here's another franchise that finally made its return, being 2D Metroid in Metroid Dread, and the wait was well worth it. Samus once again is sent to another alien planet where she loses all of her abilities, and then you have to traverse its elaborate world to find all sorts of different abilities to progress through its dangerous environment. The world itself is atmospheric and quite massive, with several different zones and biomes to explore. With Dread, though, it does add this horror element to the game with these enemy robots hunting you down. These are formidable foes not to be trifled with. You're going to have to use your wits and stealth mechanics to navigate around them until you can better deal with them later on. I also think it has an interesting story, especially the further you get into it, but where I think this game really separates itself from some of the older entries is Samus's overall movement. She feels much more agile and nimble than ever before, and it all just feels so smooth to play. There's certain games that just pretty much everybody loves to play, regardless if they're a gamer or not, and Mario Kart has always been one of those franchises. And well, when it comes to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch, this is debatably the best entry in the entire franchise. The anti-gravity sections in this game is just so highly creative. The online is that chaotic fun that you would expect from the franchise, and you have a ton of characters to pick from. Where this game truly excels, though, is in its level design. This is where Nintendo really separates themselves from every other kart racer on the market. Their level design in Mario Kart 8 is just outstanding. Each level feels unique. There's a ton of different environments, and quite simply, they are unmatched when it comes to their level design in Mario Kart 8. So here I decided to go ahead and combine pretty much all the other Mario games into one entry, rather than congesting the list with a bunch of different Mario games. So here I do have the 3D Mario games, being Mario Odyssey, which might very well possibly be the best collectathon 3D platformer that I've ever played. Level design and game design are both perfect when it comes to this game. Then I also have Mario plus Bowser's Fury, which is this interesting combination of the 2D Mario experience with 3D Mario games. This one is quite unique when it comes to the Mario franchise and definitely worth checking out. You also have the 2D Mario games, being Super Mario Maker 2, where you can actually create your own Mario levels, and then New Super Mario Bros. U, which is more of your classic 2D Mario experience, which has some great cooperative gameplay that is quite chaotic chaotic to say the least. All in all, though, you have a lot of different options when it comes to the Mario franchise, whether you like 3D platformers, 2D platformers, or you can even create your own Mario game if you want when it comes to something like Mario Maker 2. When you start to really think about it, it is just absolutely insane what Nintendo has done with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. It's like this tribute to gaming history, as you can play as these iconic characters from all of these super popular franchises across the industry. I mean, you can play as Cloud from Final Fantasy, Ryu from Street Fighter, you can play as Sora now from Kingdom Hearts, you can play as various Pokemon characters, Mario, Donkey Kong, and the list just goes on and on. You can even play as Banjo-Kazooie. This game is absolutely insane, but most importantly, it's also incredibly fun. It's yet another game that's easy to pick up and play as you just kind of whack people and you try to boot them off the level, but there's actually a lot of depth to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as well. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is a legitimate fighting game that has a lot of different mechanics, so there is some real skill involved with this game, and without a doubt, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate will go down as one of the best fighting games in history. And here at the #1 spot, I have the 3D Zelda games. One being Zelda Breath of the Wild, and then the other one, Zelda Skyward Sword HD. Now, Zelda Breath of the Wild is a unique entry within the Zelda franchise, as it focuses a little bit more on its open world style of gameplay rather than complex puzzles and intricate dungeons. But Breath of the Wild does this extraordinarily well. This is one of the better open world games that you can play right now. There's plenty to do, whether that be climbing, selling. There's a plethora of different smaller style of dungeons that you can solve throughout the world. And really, right from the gate, you have the freedom to do any of this whenever you want. There's no direct path in how you want to complete Zelda Breath of the Wild. It is about complete freedom. With that said, there's also Skyward Sword, which is more of your classic Zelda style of experience. This one will focus a little bit more on its puzzles and dungeons, and I also really like the art style in this game. It does pop on the Nintendo Switch, and for that matter, I think that Skyward Sword has one of the better stories available in any Zelda game to date. Its control scheme can be a little bit more clunky, as it was originally developed with motion controls in mind, but even with its standard controls, it's easy to get used to, and because of its beautifully told story, its intricate dungeons, and great puzzles, I think Skyward Sword is a standout game that any Zelda fan, or actually any Nintendo fan for that matter, should pick up and play. Really though, whether you like open worlds or you like that more linear experience, I think both Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild are among the very best titles available for the Nintendo Switch. Anyways though, that's it for this list, but if I forgot to mention any of your favorite games, make sure to let me know in the comments below. With that said, if you liked the video, make sure to hit that bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.